E.A. Benizer, Chris Johnson, George Booth, Edwin Erickson, B.F. Benizer, Andrew Nordstrom, E.K. Benizer, Eric Nordstrom, and Archie Hoover met together at the town hall in the township of Sterling, Polk County, Wisconsin, on the 3rd day of May, 1938 at 8 o'clock p.m. for the purpose of organizing a cemetery association. So this is when the township gave it up and turned it over to an organization. Were you here? You were here then.
Yeah. My dad used to go down and mow the grass before Memorial Day with the hand saw.
Okay.
With a hand saw.
It's not done that way anymore.
No, and he had the flag that they had used for many years, and that was a Civil War flag. Back to get how many stars. And I took that down to the Polk County Museum.
Okay. Now, the undersigned Edwin Erickson and Lucy Orr Johnson were duly elected chairman and secretary, respectively, of said meeting. That the persons meeting together agreed upon Oak Creek Cemetery Association as a corporate name of said cemetery association. That they fixed the number of trustees as 3. That Edwin Erickson, Lucy Orr Johnson, and Chester Fisk were duly elected trustees of said association by ballot. There's nothing hanky-panky going on. They did it legally. That the chairman and secretary, immediately after the election, the trustees divided these by lot into 3 classes as follows. Chester Fisk was to hold office for a term of 3 years. Lucy Orr Johnson to hold office for 2 years, and Edwin Erickson to hold office for 1 term of 1 year. That the annual meeting for the election of trustees shall be held on the 2nd day of May in each year. That every conveyance of any lot or block in the cemetery of the Cemetery Association shall be limited to be expressly for burial purposes and no other. So you couldn't buy a lot and build a house. Can't do that today either. And that no purchasers of any of the lots or blocks shall have a right to sell or convey the same to any person, association, or corporation except to this association, and upon any attempted sale or conveyance of any lot or block by any owner thereof, the title to such lot or block shall revert back to this association, but this shall not be construed to prohibit the descent by law to heirs of the lot owners. So you pass it down to the family, but that was it. This is signed by Edwin Erickson, who's chairman, and Lucy Orr Johnson, secretary. The state of Wisconsin, county of Polk, personally came before me this 5th day of May, 1938. The above named Edwin Erickson, I'm chairman, and Lucy Orr Johnson, secretary, to me known to be the chairman and secretary of the meeting above, referred to and acknowledged that they executed the foregoing instrument voluntarily for the uses and purpose therein stated. Signed by Walter T. Peterson, Clerk of Circuit Court, Polk County, Wisconsin. Filed this 5th day of May, 1938. I can remember when my dad was Secretary Treasurer, every year he had to go out to the Circuit Court with a report stating where the money was, what bank, where they had perpetual care money, and where that was held at, which was usually in a CD, a certificate of deposit, in the local bank. And they report that, and that had to be done every year. Well, my dad died in 1991. 1992, I was the one. I made one trip out there. Since then, I've been on the lam. But
I know where you live.
do you really?
Donna keeps track of it.
That's where I used to live. Then long about in the 90s, mid-90s or so, the legislature made a law, and they made it so complicated you had to be the Philadelphia lawyer to interpret it. And it was, we didn't know what we were going to do about it. And we were running short of funds. We had perpetual care money, but we couldn't touch that. And so I talked to Mike Jensen at the bank, and he was the secretary treasurer of the Cushing Cemetery. Well, I said, we're going to be out of business in a year. He said, we're not far behind you. So he wrote a letter to the office, I think it was licensing in Madison, and wanted to know what we can do about it. Well, they said you can apply and ask that some of those funds, perpetual care money, could be used for the operation of the cemetery. Or you could hook on to another cemetery that maybe had some funds and they'd be willing to take you on. Who wants to take on a poor sister? There isn't anybody. So then, I think about that year or next year, they appealed that. And I was talking to Melgard Monument guy by the name of Dave Knotts, and he said, I knew the people that instigated that law back a couple of years before, but he said that was not their intent. But this is like a case of where some lawyers get hold of something and they get it twisted and make it so complicated nobody can understand it or adhere to it. And he said that wasn't what they were interested in at all. All they want to do was to look out for some of these cemeteries that have been abandoned. Weeds are growing up, fences falling down, stones were being tipped over. Nothing was being done for it. That was what they were concerned about. But I guess most of the legislators are probably lawyers, huh? Unfortunately. So anyway, they appealed it, and since that time, we haven't had to file one form to the circuit court. Nor have we had any instruction about what to do with the perpetual care money. We didn't even tell us that we had to keep track of it. So we went on a spending spree. Not really. But it sure has made it a lot easier. And we, like I say, we don't even keep track of the perpetual care money anymore. If you buy a lot for $250, at one time we would probably put $50 or $100 of that into perpetual care. Back in those days, it wasn't that price. In fact, here, back in about 38 or 39, a full lot cost $15 for 8 graves.
But that was when my dad was working for $1 a day if he could get the work. So
Yeah.
yeah, $1 a day. Yeah.
How far back do the graves go?
How far back? You mean in years?
Yeah.
The oldest
Donna,
one.
what's the oldest one up here?
What?
1865, is it?
I think so.
There's one along the road, kind of 2/3 of the way north, maybe, that looks like it's probably the oldest one. I think it's got it's like 1865 on it. It might be old. There might be ones that aren't marked in there that are older. I'm sure there's a lot of non-marked graves in the cemetery, too. But I mean, no marker, no stone on them. But I think that's the oldest one I've ever seen.
Those wooden crosses just don't last.
Yeah, that's right.
At one time, they received a regular deed on the,
Yep.
lot of land that you had. I don't know when they gave that up.
See, now the interesting thing is Donna has a original plat, or a later plat of the cemetery, and it's on a roll of like one of those you pull down the shades or something.
Scroll.
Scroll type thing, yeah.
But this
I've
is
got one
an
of those,
example
too.
of the cemetery deed that they received.
I've seen one that somebody had. So the cemetery now, the total assets of the cemetery is $31,603.52. Doing okay.
And what does it cost to operate it a year? Roughly, it's mowing, I suppose, mostly. Yeah.
Mowing is the biggest item.
So maybe we could just spray it with Roundup every.
I wouldn't suggest that though.
You don't think that'd go over after Memorial Day?
Duane, is there a map of the, like a grid map of, so if there are graves that are unmarked, is there a map that shows that it's occupied though, but unmarked?
No.
The closest thing is the thing that Donna has, that does have it. It's kind of a map,
Yeah.
and it has names written in it. It's pretty fragile. I took photos of it. Most of them turned out, but some of them didn't quite get clear. So sometime I'll
I'll
have
bring
to
you
try
my
again.
copy.
You got a copy of
Yeah.
it? You do?
Mhm.
Well, that'd be wonderful. Yeah.
So there would be a possibility that there is maybe a spot of land that's old and occupied, but you don't know that it maybe is. Or no?
I have a plat of the cemetery.
That's what, yeah,
Is that what you're referring to?
yes, and then Orlo said he has an older one too, because Donna's is getting, fragile.
Well, I think you've all transferred them to cards now, haven't you? Because everything is laid out by numbers in the place. It's like blocks and lots or something like that. So, and then you have by lists of everything that's there. It's just if there were some that were buried without, before or somebody didn't put them in, I suppose.
The card file is very incomplete,
Oh,
and as a plat is also. It shows who owned it, who bought it originally, and if it's been transferred to somebody else, it shows that. But that's about it. I don't plan on living forever. I just pity the poor people who follows me and has this job.
so right now, you and Donna are the cemetery committee. Are there more? Or?
Yeah, there's more. Phil Bernizer,
Oh, okay.
Joyce Nelson,
Oh.
who was a Bernizer,
Yeah.
and Brad Swenson, Bradley.
Okay, so you have some younger folks in there.
Just don't spread the word.
When after the original land, then you said that Dr. Deanan didn't donate it all, how was the other land then acquired? Purchased from just,
Owners, and then the part of the churchyard here, originally, this building was given back to the cemetery association.
The schoolhouse.
Yeah, the school here.
Okay.
So that, then when it was deeded over to us as a church, we kept a portion of it out here, so that we have I suppose about half of what the parking lot out here toward the church belongs to the cemetery, and then we have, how much of area over on the other north side, we've got a chunk too, that we bought from Gordy Tromley.
We reserved an acre here on this side of the cemetery.
Okay.
or acre.
That was part of the church lot. And then to the north, there's 50 feet that was given to the cemetery by Wilmer Peck.
Okay.
And then when Gordy Tromley's bought Peck's place here, and I told Roy Peck, I said when they want to sell some land, I said, let me know. because the cemetery is gonna need some land. Well, I'll do that. Well, first thing I know, Gordy is buying it. And so I asked Gordy, I said, would you be willing to sell 3 acres to the cemetery? Well, I don't know. He said, we'll have to, my wife and I'll have to go and walk over that land. So he came back and said, no, that's a lot of land. We can't give up that much. Well, would you give up 2 acres then? Well, I don't think so. Well, how about 1 acre? So to the north, where that driveway that along the trees, we got 1 acre north of that, 105 feet. And so he gave that up with the stipulation that he would get the wood off of that 1 acre. And we gave him $1,000 for it, plus the whatever trees. So, but we don't need that. We just didn't want somebody building a moonshine still.
Well, now that you mention that, my dad, Walter Dahl, and Donna's mother, Helen Fisk, were the last school board here. And when they closed the school down, they had to make a deal with St. Croix Falls District about what they were going to do with it. And the district didn't want it. They wanted some of the books out of the school because they had pretty good school books and that. And we were all going to go to Cushing School, so they were sent out there. But they were trying to decide the church wanted the building because the old church, which we have a picture over there, they thought wasn't as good of a building as this was. This is a bigger one, and it was functional, had more stuff, actually had a furnace and a bathroom in by the time it closed. And so the big worry was, well, Wolf Creek is always such a darn hellhole of booze and that the church will get it and then they'll fold and then it'll go into a bar and a dance hall. So if we give it to the cemetery committee, we don't have to worry about the church's future. We can let the cemetery committee worry about it for a while. So that was the reason it was turned over to them, and then the church, I believe, must have rented it or something until this. So I'm still a little bit worried about whether the church might end up turning it over to a bar. But so far, it was 1957, so it's been pretty good.
Well, if something happens to the church, the building goes back to the cemetery.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
We don't really want the building.
Yeah, no.
But you
He
have
said
to,
we could sell it for a
bar.
That's just what. Even your dad, Ralph, was involved in that too. He said, "Yeah, the cemetery committee would." So he would be upset if you sold it to a bar.
we'll just keep it and serve lunch here.
Any other questions? Any more questions?
Yeah. Why is that dated Burnett County, Wisconsin?
What is?
On that, on the cemetery deed? I was just wondering if you had a deal with Burnett County too?
This one,
No, yeah, the one you
the
sent.
little one we passed
I
around.
have no idea what you're referring to.
That, Donna
Cemetery
passed
deed.
around a deed.
This is the Burnett
Your
County.
deed?
Maybe it was just,
Maybe
maybe
they,
they
Does
just
that person
handled
live
it or
in-
something.
Burnett County?
That must be it.
It's Flossie Hurley, isn't it, or Flossie Rogers? Isn't it? Flossie
Holstetter.
Hostetler?
Yeah.
Well, that's Flossie Nelson. She was Rogers, and she bought that when her husband got killed, and he's buried over here. So I imagine that's when she got the
Did she live in Burnett County then?
he died in, let's see, 1925.
Okay.
Donna has a collection, has been collecting since 2005, when we had the 150th anniversary of Sterling. We started this collection of trying to get obituaries for people that are buried in the cemetery, and there's quite a few of them over here in a big book that you have.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting to look
and it's
through.
indexed, so
And
you
then
could,
this is index too of the.
yeah.
Did that
She has a lot more
$30,000
that
just
she
accrue,
doesn't have any.
charging $250? Or did the county give you
No,
some
as far
money?
as started off charging $15 or $25 a lot for
But
8 graves.
the state didn't cede some money or the county or something.